Copic in the Craft Room fans, Michelle Houghton here. I haven't said hello in a long time, so hello one and all. I am doing kind of a new mini series. There'll be probably 4 or 5 of these videos that I'm going to call Copic Quick Tips. Some of our older videos that we've had Copic in the Craft Room going for about 4.5 years now, and when Colleen Sean started it, she did some amazing videos, did a full year of them, 1.5 years of them, and they have tons of views and are really popular, but they have a lot of questions on them, and it's hard for me to go back and answer because I haven't memorized her scripts and know exactly what she says. So I'm going to start piecing together some little pieces and not necessarily replacing, but updating those videos. So one of the things we're going to talk through, or some of the things we're going to talk through, is natural blending groups, the 10+2 rule, basic shading with 1 marker, 2 marker, 3 markers, some of those real basic, need to know information, things about Copic. So welcome to those, and we'll try to do 1 or 2 a month just for a few months just to get us all caught up. And most of those you might see me, or you might just see my hands again, but are very informational, and my goal is to keep them around 5 minutes, really short, quick tips. So thanks for joining me this week for our first Copic Quick Tip, and this week we're going to be talking about 10+2 and what that all means and why we call it that and all that good stuff. All right, so I'm going to zoom in on the paper so I can talk you through some of that and why it works the way it does. The numbering system broken down is color family, saturation, and value. Those are the 3 pieces of information you get by the number on each Copic marker. So a group of markers like B00, B02, B04 all have the same color family, the same saturation number, which is that first number, and the same value, or have slight jumps in value, getting a little bit darker as we go from a 0, a 2, to a 4. So if I color with those, I have this nice easy stair step. Here's that B00, B02, B04. They blend nicely together. I know they're going to blend fairly happily together and fairly easy. So B00, B02, B04. The 10+2 rule just means that I'm going to take a step up in saturation, and I'm also going to take a step up in value. So if I start with B00, I want to take a jump in saturation, and that is that 10. So I'm going to add 10 to my marker because I'm adding to that first place. But I also want to get a little darker, so I also have to add 2. This is a B1, 2. So from B00 to B12, it's an exact 10+2 jump. So then the question is, why don't you just say add 12? That would seem reasonable. However, we're talking about 2 different areas that we're trying to jump. We're trying to jump not only in number, but we're trying to jump in saturation, which is that 1 place, and the value, which is where the 2 is. Those are 2 separate entities. And so we wanted to separate those out and say 10+2. The next jump, if I go 10+2 again, so I jump up in saturation again, that's my 10, and then I jump up in value again, that's my 2, takes me all the way to a B24, which in the blues works out nice and neat. I actually have a B24. Now, these 3 numbers, B00, B02, B04, blend great together. They're quite happy. Guess what? These 3 do as well. You may have a little more work in between some of these little connecting joints, but they're going to blend really well as well. But I get more depth, I get more value change by adding that gray in as I go up that value scale. So the issue is the 10 plus 2 rule is really more of a theory than anything else. It's not a set rule. Most of your marker series will not have a beautiful 10 plus 2, 10 plus 2 jump. It just doesn't exist very often. It does right here, but let's take a red series instead. I've got R21, R24, R29, which is a great red blending group, but I've already messed up because I've already added +3 here and then +5 there. So it's not your standard jump anyway, but I know it blends well. It's a good natural blending group. It still has that same color family, same saturation. I've just jumped up in value. I want to apply the 10 plus 2 rule here, but there's not an R23 and there's not an R26 or let's see, it'd be an R33 and an R46. So I don't have exactly what I need. But I can do some adjusting. I can actually jump back and start with an R12, and I'll label these just in case you can't see those lids really well. I'm gonna go ahead and use my middle, and this is my 10 plus 2. Look, this one actually works. R24, but then I want to jump up in saturation again, and in value I'm going to jump all the way to R39. So I've got a jump in saturation, where I've added 10. Here's my +10. And here's my +10 again. To add to value, I've added +2 this time, but this time I added +5. Still the same concept though. It's still that idea of we're adding 10 plus 2. So I'm hoping this sort of makes sense. I hope you get why we're calling it that. We're just trying to remind people that it's not an issue of just adding 12. It's adding saturation and adding value so that you get your head wrapped around the point that it's not so much the exact number, but that you're going from a 1 in the saturation column to a 2 or a 3. Maybe you jump up a couple slots in the saturation. But by jumping those saturation numbers and then also jumping those small jumps in the value scale, you're going to get this broader, deeper contrast and add way more depth. So when you're ready to go beyond your beginner natural blending groups, the next step, or one possible step, is starting to work with that 10 plus 2 rule, where you're adding not only a value jump, but you're also adding a saturation jump. Again, please ask questions. I know sometimes these seem really rudimentary or really straightforward and you don't understand why I'm saying something. Go ahead and ask. I'm happy to try to explain it better. Thank you for joining me, and I hope you have a happy, colorful week.